Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Without a doubt, some of the most commonly used weapons in Warzone are those SMGs. We're using them as a secondary to rifles, to LMGs, sometimes as sniper support. They're on the vast majority of loadouts in some way or another, right? And while the whole close range meta and the SMG meta has been relatively consistent for a bit now, there are some weapons that have, bumped up recently or decreased recently because of various weapon tuning over the course of Season 5 so far. So today we are breaking down what I believe are the top 5 best SMGs in Warzone right now. As we go through them all, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, feel free to do so. That way you can always stay up to date with absolutely everything going on in the world of Call of Duty. Also, huge shout out to Gamer Advantage. You guys see me wear the glasses in all the face cam videos. I love these things. I wear these every single day, whether I'm gaming, whether I'm editing, whether I'm just browsing, watching YouTube videos, whatever it may be. These things are a game changer, all right? Sleeping better, less headaches, less eye strain. They're phenomenal. If you want to get a pair for yourself, code WhosImmortal has got you covered with a nice little discount. Be sure to check out the link down in the description below for that. All right, so coming in number 5 for me, it's going to be the CX-9 here. The only reason that it's lower at number 5 compared to some of the other subs that we're obviously going to get to here in a minute is because at the end of the day, it is a modern warfare weapon, and in turn, that means it just can't be made as mobile as some of the other SMGs that we're going to feature in this video. And obviously, when it comes to SMGs, mobility is key. And modern warfare weapons naturally are obviously all a lot slower than most of the Cold War weapons out there, just because you can't have things like the Tiger Team Spotlight, the Bruiser Grip, and all these other attachments that help out with the mobility, even more so on top of the base mobility, which for the most part is already better on a lot of the Cold War weapons in general. So up close, the TTK is very competitive, and let's be honest, it's the CX-9. This is one of the most sought after and anticipated weapons in Warzone history. It'd just be doing it a disservice not to use it. So as far as the attachments go here, there's a couple of different ways you can build out the muzzle and the barrel. Some players just go base for the CX-38S barrel, which is basically like the monolithic integral suppressor that we would use on the Modern Warfare MP5. And this does the job just fine. It's a way to basically knock out 2 attachments with one. You get the suppression, and then you also get the added range and control and the velocity as well. So you could go ahead and you could just run that by itself, and then you don't have an option for the muzzle. At the same time, though, it is slightly faster if you do the basic monolithic and then just the first barrel, the CX-38E barrel here. This is going to give you slightly better speed compared to the 38S barrel. So if you want to go for 2 attachments and get some slightly better mobility, you could go for these 2 off the rip. But personally, I like to go for the 38S barrel just because it's 2-in-1 and you can use an attachment elsewhere. I'm also going to be going for the Merc foregrip here. It's pretty basic on most MW SMGs, better hip fire accuracy, better control. It's a win-win there. We got to go for the 50-round drums. The rate of fire is a bit higher here, so you're reloading pretty frequently. I also like to pair that with sleight of hand because the reload on the 50-round drum with sleight of hand is incredibly fast, so you can play very, very aggressive with this specific setup. Then for the final attachment, you got a few different options. Personally, my go-to is the CX-FR stock. It's basically like the nose stock or the collapsible stock, better movement speed, better ADS speed, and that's just going to help out with mobility, and I feel like this is a really consistent setup. If you're not too concerned in that category, though, you could always go for the 5mm laser and get some better hip fire if you're more of a hip fire based player, or you could even go for like the tac grip here, which is basically the stippy grippy. But overall, I think the CX-FR stock is the best 5th attachment in this particular case. Then coming in at number 4, we've got the Tech-9, and the reason that this is a bit on the lower end as well compared to like the top 5, right, is just because this has a bit of a higher skill gap compared to some of the other SMGs. Ultimately, this gun will be the best if you can master it in the semi-auto form, meaning it is a single shot, which is obviously very difficult to use for a lot of players, especially up close when you have to fight things like other SMGs like the MP5s, like the Bullfrog, the MAC-10, whatever it may be, and then also things like shotguns and whatnot. So a semi-auto weapon there is going to be harder to use for sure, but it's high risk, high reward, right? If you can get a good trigger finger down and spam this thing in semi-auto, it's going to be very, very good in terms of like the general TTK. But you could also go ahead, you could turn it into a burst weapon. It's going to make it a bit easier to use, or you could turn it into a fully auto weapon and make it very easy to use. And in general, it really just comes down to preference. I think most players are going to go for that fully auto repeater and make it fully auto, make it super simple and more SMG-like, so it's easier to hang with some of the other top SMGs in the game. I'm still going to go for the Task Force barrel. It's pretty much the go-to on all the Cold War SMGs, as we know, very standard there. As always, again, on the Cold War SMGs, we're going to go for the Tiger Team Spotlight. build out some better mobility there. Obviously, we want this for rotations. We want this for pushing buildings and close quarters engagements. So good mobility is a must-have there. As far as the magazine goes, the fast mag here really is not the go-to. I feel like the standard 48 round is going to be the preferred option, just because you don't have to worry about the super slow ADS time that the fast mag offers. So just the standard 48 is my go-to there. And just like on the CX9, you can sort of mess around with that fifth and final attachment. I don't feel like an underbarrel is super necessary here. If you wanted one, I'd honestly recommend the patrol grip for better movement speed, or even the bruiser grip for better movement speed. But personally, I think I'm going to go for no stock. You could also go for the Raider stock at the very last there if you have it fully leveled, but no stock's going to give you some better mobility, and it'll be very consistent, very agile, and very mobile with this general setup on here. And this is, again, sort of that alternative to that copy and paste SMG setup for all the Cold War subs. But overall, the Tech 9, not the fastest killing SMG in the game, but if you can master it and really get down the basic properties of this weapon, it can actually pay off quite a bit. And it's overall, it's a very solid SMG, just not the #1 in the game. Now, at number 3, we've got my favorite SMG probably in Warzone history. We've got the MAC-10. This thing just straight up does not have a great TTK in close range, but what it does have over a lot of the other SMGs is insane mobility. You will fly and fry with this thing, and its range is also a tad bit better. Its initial drop-off is a tad bit better than a lot of the other SMGs, especially the ones that we have featured in this video today. So you can honestly get away with using this as sniper support, very similar to the CX9, and it'll pay off very, very well. But in general, I feel like this is just a great SMG, because even though it has that slightly better range with overall a slower TTK up close, if you are running and gunning with this thing, it's still going to fry. It's a close range weapon for a reason, and even though its TTK is not as good as even the CX9 or the Tech 9s up close, it's still not bad for a close range weapon, right? And it's so easy to use. Like I said, the mobility is insane, so it's a no-brainer to have this in the top 5 SMGs in the game in my mind. It's going to be the basic go-to Cold War SMG setup. Agency suppressor for slightly better range, task force barrel for better range and velocity, and you get that better strafe speed as well, which is a pretty crucial bonus on there. We're going for the Tiger Team Spotlight, make that mobility even better. We go for the standard 53 round drum, so we can just spray and pray. Then finally, we are going for Raider stock for better mobility on there as well. Go-to setup for quite some time, and it still works very, very well in the current Warzone meta. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this one might come as a surprise to people, but at number 2, I'm going with the Modern Warfare MP5. It was between this or the Cold War MP5, and even after the nerf, yes, this thing takes 2 extra shots to kill up close, which is such a big deal, right? It's really not. 2 extra shots is not a huge deal. Slightly slower TTK, still the most comfortable SMG in the game, I think, for the vast majority of players. It's been a go-to literally ever since Warzone dropped. Everyone's familiar with it. They know how to use this thing. And a 2 extra shot TTK for close range is not bad at all. And in fact, the nerf to it made it slightly better in medium range fights too. So if you wanted to use this as sniper support, technically it would be slightly better, but personally I'd be using the CX9 and the MAC-10 for sniper support over this. This is still my running gun, pushing everything mad aggressive MP5 loadout. But yeah, it got nerfed. No, it's really not all that bad even after the nerf. I would say it's number 2. Previously, it was definitely number 1. Now, though, it's holding down that silver medal spot. Of course, we're going for the basic monolithic integral suppressor. Again, a 2-for-1 attachment allows you to use a different attachment elsewhere that you wouldn't be able to use if you went for the monolithic suppressor. Of course, we're going for the Merc foregrip, better hip fire accuracy and control. This thing is a laser beam from the hip. You don't need a laser sight. We're going to forego using that. We're going for the 45 round mags. I like to go for sleight of hand because, like I said, I do go for ultra aggression here. We're just trying to push everything and fry absolutely everyone. We're going to go for the collapsible stock, max of the mobility here. If you don't want to use sleight of hand and you're okay with that slightly slower reload, I'd go for either the stipple grip tape or the 5mm laser. But this setup to me is just golden. Even after the nerf, this is a great SMG, especially if you are an aggressive player. And of course, at number 1, I'm sure you guys saw this one coming because I've been gassing it up for weeks now. The OTS. It is the best SMG in Warzone right now for SMG based fights. Let's make that very clear. This thing's damage drops off pretty quickly. Around that 12-meter range, this thing does have a pretty significant drop off, and that's where things like the MAC-10 and the CX9 would then be better than any of these other options, because those guns don't have that super quick drop off around that 12-meter mark. But if you're running and gunning with this thing, it's going to fry. Its up close TTK is the best in the game for SMGs. I think outside of maybe the Fennec in some situations, depending on where you're landing your shots on an enemy's body. But in general, the OTS is going to fry, and it's also going to fly just like the MAC-10. The mobility on this thing is just pristine, little chef's kiss, right? It's incredible. I've been loving this gun for weeks now. Do I think it's going to get nerfed in the future? Probably, because I think a lot of players are catching on to just how good the OTS is, but for the time being, it's golden, right? There's no reason not to be using the OTS. We're going for the Grew Suppressor, of course. We're going for the Task Force Barrel. We're going for the Tiger Team Spotlight. In this case, we do use the Fast Mag, the VDV 40 round Fast Mag. You reload very, very quick, and you need to reload quick because you're reloading often with this thing. Only having 40 rounds in that high rate of fire means a lot of reloading is taking place. Then lastly, we are going either for no stock, in my opinion, or you go for the Serpent Wrap. Personally, I've been running the Serpent Wrap for weeks now, and I really do enjoy this setup in specific, but using no stock or the skeletal stock and getting that slightly better mobility, that better ADS firing move speed can be beneficial depending on how you like the gun and what you want it to feel like. But personally, I like this super snappy ADS here. It feels good. It feels consistent. Like I said, I've been using this specific setup for weeks, and I've been frying with it, so I have no reason to change it, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and that's what we're doing in this case. But yeah, in my opinion, those are the top 5 best SMGs in Warzone right now. These are great for those close range fights. Obviously, that's what they're limited to, but for sniper support, for using it with an AR or an LMG, these are all great options. I'd highly recommend any of them depending on what you specifically want to use. But that's going to wrap things up for today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, feel free to do so. That way you can always stay up to date with everything going on in the world of COD. But once again, and as always, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.